it's okay if I speak in English. It's a real pleasure to be here. I used to be Under Secretary, Deputy Secretary at Director XP. And the press club was my watering hole, like I think all of you know. I remember they were some of my best days, but they were also the days that spoiled my liver. I hope that's not for the camera. But also it's really lovely to see some of our old senior friends here. I just heard the names of men today. I see Pawan Joy, Mr. Naik. So it's really a pleasure to be here. So look, there's not much one can say. I think about this for 6 or 7 minutes, and I think Satish Jacob particularly focused on aspects of what are its implications for our security. There's a lot one could say, but let me just start off by saying a couple of things that must be on your mind. One, in terms of security, I can't say how directly it will affect Kashmir. I think we have a very strong counter-insurgency grid. There are other barriers that are in place. But I'd certainly say that after 20 years of the war on terror, when organizations like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and I think all the other organizations that depended on them, were degraded and put on the back foot. The very fact that an organization that many countries and many entities, including the United Nations, designated as a terrorist organization, can claim to have won a war against the foremost military power in the world, which will give a huge boost to all international terrorist organizations. Coming out of this, you can see offspring of the Taliban. Many of them were actually already involved in the offensive in Afghanistan right today. This offensive in Afghanistan has not just been won by 16,000 Afghan Taliban. They have been won by 60 to 70,000 Afghan Taliban, some of who have been there from before, some of who have been packed in from Pakistan, and supported by all a whole range of terrorist outfits. They may include actually elements of the ISIS, but let's say more specifically Hizb ut-Tahrir, IMU, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba. In fact, I heard that the Lashkar-e-Taiba are actually policing the street from Kabul to the airport. Anti-sectarian outfits, anti-Shia outfits, those ranged against Central Asia, those ranged against others. And I think coming out of this, we should be prepared for a kind of mutation of this, which means to say that maybe these organizations will get together. We could have a larger international terrorist syndicate. We could have attempts to reconcile organizations that were not reconciled until now. I think everything is possible. Basically, it is not possible that what the Taliban has done is going to stay and be contained in Afghanistan. It will have ripple effects, it will have demonstration effects, it will have inspirational effects all across. All those who think that they made a deal with Al-Qaeda, with Taliban, that Al-Qaeda will not attack them in their shores. Those who think that by making a deal with the Taliban, they will protect them from ISIS, are making a serious mistake. Second thing that I must emphasize, I think sometimes it's often lost in various other sort of issues, is this whole question of what is the Taliban. We should never forget that the Taliban is a creation of Pakistan, out of the Afghan refugee camps and the madrasas, starting from '94 until now. It's a 27-year project which has mutated once or twice, but particularly after it was ousted from Kabul in 2002. It was a Pakistani project in many ways. In one way, it is, of course, simply to take over and to be able to exercise tutelage in Afghanistan. Secondly, it was created to have an Afghan face, but in fact actually to erase Afghan and Pashtun identity and submerge it in a larger pan-Islamic identity captured in the notion of the emirate, sometimes also used as caliphate. It has been advised, the masterminds have been in Pakistan right through this entire offensive. There are many psychological war aspects, there are many tactical aspects that could not have been just simply conceived by so-called insurgents with light infantry weapons. There are serious masterminds at work. And even if you think that if you talk to them, Just because you talk to them, they will suddenly turn sides and become our friends and our strategic partners, which of course is a delusion. Even if you think that they can be weaned away, you will have to think of how to wean away a 27-year-old partnership. So I don't think we should get very easily deluded by that. Even if you talk, I think you have to talk to them. We must talk to them. That is diplomacy 1.0. Whether you do it in public or private, that's another matter that we can discuss. But assuming that, let's say you talk to one faction of them, which is a little more amenable to being loosened from Pakistan and come closer to us, what guarantee is it? Let's say your minimum security requirements, even the security of your embassy, what guarantee is it that the ISI will not set the Haqqani network, will not set any number of other horses that they have born and bred over these last 27 years to sabotage your interests? So I think these are some of the cautionary aspects that we would need to take. Of course, I've spoken on television, we have talked about other things. There are ways in which you can go about your relationship. You don't have to bury your head ostrich-like. I do believe that our relationship with Afghanistan is important to try to nurture at a people-to-people level, if not necessarily with a terrorist organization. And again, in the context of atrocities, I should mention again something that the world is getting a free pass on, which is that the scale of atrocities that the Taliban have committed just this year alone, attacks on maternity hospital, attacks on girls' schools, minority institutions, even mosques with students, targeted killings of civil society activists, journalists, including our own Danish Siddiqui, and most recently in this last offensive phase, forced marriages and abductions of girls. They are walking around with lists of people who have been identified. They may not, right now the news that is coming out of Afghanistan is very highly curated. There is very little international independent journalistic news coming out of there. The entire world actually thinks that Afghanistan is a problem, and one way of solving it is to just get the Taliban in place and just get away from that place. So there is a lot of whitewashing going on. But the scale of atrocities that has happened, including, as I said, the forced marriages and abductions, is comparable to what the ISIS did in Syria. The ISIS in Syria faced another kind of reaction, but in fact, what is very evident in this case is that an attempt is being to make over the Taliban, even in this phase, even when you're seeing what is happening in your face, as somehow a changed Taliban. So I think this is a kind of false narrative, and whatever we do, we can discuss concrete steps of action, what we can actually do, but let's go with eyes wide shut. Let's not delude ourselves into thinking something that is not there on the ground. So just let me check if there is anything that I think is important in these 6 minutes. There are geopolitics of this. Of course, we are net losers for the time being. I think more, and yeah, one important point is that also it would be a big mistake to think that the Taliban actually have political support in Afghanistan. You know, the Ghani administration, the Karzai government, these are all different things. There were massive failures of the Afghan government. And massive failures of the Afghan government led to a kind of lack of identification with the government, which has facilitated the recognition, the acceptance of Taliban, particularly after people are fed up of terrorism and violence and conflict and fighting for politics. That has been part of the Pakistani strategy to wear people down by attrition, make them resigned to a kind of defeated peace. But that defeated peace will not last too long. In one of the television interviews that I had, panel discussions I had, there was an Afghan lady present, and she was asked, what do Afghans want? And she said, it was very poignant. She said, we want two things. First, we want freedom, and then we want peace. Right now, they are fed up. They are willing to settle for some kind of peace. Not everyone. But sooner or later, the desire for freedom will also come. When that desire for freedom comes, which side will be on? Will we be on the side of the Taliban, or will we be on the side of freedom? I think that's the kind of choice that we need to make. So I think right now, I won't say what else we can do. Maybe we need some level of minimal engagement so that we can continue and maintain our relationship. But I would also say we should keep the alternative of a more progressive Afghanistan alive. And that is where I think we, civil society, particularly media, I would like to see that Indian media are able to reach out to Afghan media to give them an alternative space to function, to at least keep this idea of a progressive Islam. If people really wanted the Taliban so much, or even if people were resigned because of the failures of the Afghan government to the Taliban so much, they would not be hanging on planes to leave Afghanistan.
Thank you.